Welcome students. Hello, how are you all? Okay, so welcome to our YouTube R.S.Kalaria. Today we are going to learn lesson number 5, separation of substances, grade 6, isn't it? Last time we have learned the sorting of materials, that materials are sorted, and in this chapter we are going to learn that separation of substances means substances are separated from the mixture. Why it is required and which are the process that we will learn. Clear? Now you know very well that in morning when the tea is drank by your elders, after it gets prepared, it is filtered with the strainer. Why it is filtered, not directly drink? When the shake is prepared, it is directly drink by the person, not this tea. Because tea contains substances like ginger, cardamom and tea leaves and so on, which will be not proper while we drink it, isn't it? So when we drink the tea, it is required to be strained after it is prepared. Even sometimes there are some cubes or impurities in the milk also, then it is required to be filtered. Let us see how it is. Now here 3 columns are there. First column is separation process. So which process and what we are going to separate, isn't it? That we will see in this column. Our second column is purpose for which we do the separation. Why it is required to separate? Why we cannot use it directly? If the milkshake is prepared, rose milkshake or chiku milkshake is prepared, then we drink it directly. But we never drink directly tea. Even sometimes we never drink directly lemonade, isn't it? So purpose for which we do the separation. And our third column is what do we do with the separated components. Now after separating, what do we do with that components, that we are going to learn, isn't it? Now here first column is proper, but in second and third column answers are mixed up. We have to find the correct answer and match it. Okay. So first point is to separate stones from rice. Now you know students very well that we cannot eat the stones. It is very much harmful for our body, isn't it? So before cooking rice, it is required to be cleaned, and if stones are present in the rice, it should be separated. Now from the second column we have to find the correct answer for it, and our correct answer is B. That why we are doing, what is the purpose of separation? Yes, it is to remove non-useful components. You know that stone is a non-useful, so it is required to be removed. Okay, now again from the third column we have to find the correct answer, and our correct answer is number 1, that we throw away the solid components. Yes, so what we will throw away? Stone, because it is not useful for us. Let us see our second example, churning milk to obtain butter. Yes, butter, your favorite, delicious, isn't it? Now what will be the correct answer from the second column? Our correct answer will be to separate 2 different but useful components. So here we are separating 2 different but useful components. So something, both the things might be important. And what do we do with the separated components? So what will be the correct answer from this column? It will be number 3. We use both the components. So when the butter is churned, then either from the buttermilk, then it is both the things are used. We can use the buttermilk also and we can use the butter also. But we cannot directly take out the butter and use it. It is required to be separate, isn't it? So for that purpose separation is necessary. And our third example, already I have explained you, that is the separate tea leaves. While drinking, it will create a problem. So, it is required to separate tea leaves, and correct answer for that is to remove impurities or harmful components from second column. Yes, why it is required to separate tea leaves? Because to remove impurities or harmful components, isn't it? And what will be the correct answer from the third column? Correct answer will be we throw away the impurities. The tea leaves and ginger and whatever impurities are left out is thrown away, and whatever purity is available, that will be drink by the person. So that is the 3 examples. So now you are clear that which are the separation process, what is the purpose, why we should separate, why we cannot use it directly, and what do we do with the separate components. Sometimes we are using both the components, sometimes using only one component, and sometimes we throw away the impurities. So in this way separation process is taken. Okay, now we are going to learn the various method of separations, isn't it? Different methods of separation we are going to learn. First of all, let us take hand picking. Yes, it is the easiest way to separate the components from the mixture. Yes, when it is used the hand picking, now it is not only one process. So we have to learn that when such process are used. Now hand picking, it is used for separating slightly larger impurities. Okay, suppose grains are there, isn't it? Grains contain stones, husk or some impurities, so which can be taken out with the help of our hand. So for that purpose hand picking is used, which can be easily separated with our hand, isn't it? Suppose I give you some oranges and some guavas and apples. Yes, there hand picking is the best method. We can separate it with the help of hand only. There is no required to filter or to strain, or some stones are present in the wheat, isn't it? That can be also easily removed by the hand picking process. Our next process is a threshing. Yes, it is used to separate grains from the stalks. So mostly farmers in the field, this process is used. You know that what are the stalks? Stalks, if you are eating this corn, isn't it? Makai. तो उसके जो डोडे होते हैं, that is the kind of stalks. So such kind of stalks are there in the field. From that many grains are present, and it is separated by the threshing process, isn't it? Yes, if you take a one cone, it contains many pieces of कॉर्न, isn't it? ये पूरा एक कॉर्न आप लो मकाई का डोडा, तो उसमें कितने सारे कॉर्न्स होते हैं. इन द सेम वे इफ यू टेक अ स्टॉक, इट कंटेन्स many grains and it is separated by the process of threshing. So threshing is the process to separate grains from stalks. Here hand picking is not possible. Clear? Threshing is the best process. Now winnowing. Our next process is winnowing. Now when to use the winnowing process? If I say again that I give you chiku and banana, you cannot separate by the winnowing. Then where the winnowing process is used? It is used to separate heavier and lighter substances by blowing wind or air. Yes, so here we required wind or air. With the help of wind or air, substances are separated, which one is heavy and one is the lighter. So especially to remove the husk. Husk means fotra. Okay, when it is removed, then winnowing can be used. Especially it is used by the farmers to remove the husk from the grains, isn't it? Even you might have observed the skin of groundnut after it is roasted. It is removed by the process of winnowing only, isn't it? By blowing air, the skin of the groundnuts are removed. So for this purpose, winnowing process is used. Our next process is sieving. Yes, sieving means chadwu. Okay. Now where this process is used? It is used to separate mixture of substances of different sizes. Okay, with the help of sieve. Yes, even the construction is going on of the building, you might have seen that their sieving process is done. वो रेती होती है ना, so बड़े कंकर निकल जाते हैं और the tiny one will separate it, which is used to prepare the building. Even at our home, some things are required, which is the tiny are useful, sometimes larger is useful. So for that purpose, sieving method is used. So sieving specially to separate the different size, and here also we required sieve. In hand picking, nothing is required. Physically with our hand we can separate some larger impurities, or also we can separate the things which we want to separate. Just I had given the example of fruits. Okay, but for separating impurities only mostly we are using the hand picking. Now threshing. Threshing specially to separate grains from the stalks. There we cannot use hand picking. And our next will be winnowing. Here what we will require? Wind or air. So by blowing wind or air, heavier and lighter. If the two substances are together, one is heavy and one is light, especially husk. Husk yani fotra, that is removed with the help of this process. And next one is sieving, and that is used to separate the different sizes of components with the help of sieve. Okay, we will learn some other processes also. So now we will learn some other processes. You are thorough with all the four processes that we have learned: hand picking, threshing, winnowing and sieving. Now other process we are learning, that is the sedimentation. Now what is sedimentation? It is process in which heavier components in a mixture settles after adding water to it. So when you take any kind of component, especially the pulses, isn't it? And when the water is added to it, what happens? That heavier components in a mixture settles after adding water to it. So pulses will settle down, and whatever impurities are there, that will float, isn't it? Might be sometimes some insects or some lighter impurities like husk and so on. Some impurities which are lighter will float, and the heavier pulses will settle down. So when water is added to any components, and in that heavier components will settle down in a mixture, such kind of process is known as sedimentation. Okay children, so be clear. Again I will repeat that it is a process in which heavier components in a mixture, so there might be many things, so heavier components will settle after adding water to it. So water is must, you have to add water to the mixture, and when the heavier components will settle down, that kind of process is known as sedimentation. Our next is decantation. Our next process is decantation. It is also one type of separation technique. Now what is done in this decantation? It is the process of removal of water with dust. So decantation is possible only when the sedimentation is there. Okay, so when the water is added, the upper layer, whatever the impurities were floating, it is removed, and such kind of process is known as decantation. So we can also say that it is connected to sedimentation. Directly decantation we cannot do, isn't it? So decantation is a process of removal of water. Which water? Which is floating and which contains dust or maybe some impurities, some dust particles, some impurities like husk or some insects, whatever. When we prepare a dal and rice, always it is washed before cooking, so that whatever impurities are there, it is removed. So that kind of process is known as decantation. It is used in our daily life. Our next process is filtration. Now you know very well it is the easy process. Now where this process is used? It is the process to separate insoluble substances. Okay, when the substances are not soluble and impurities are there, we have already seen the example of tea, isn't it? That tea leaves are separated by the filtration. So filtration, it is the process to separate insoluble substances in the liquid with the help of porous medium, that is a filter. Now here we are going to learn three kind of filter. First is with the help of strainer. Yes, so every day when the tea is prepared, the tea leaves are separated with the help of strainer. Second is also filter paper, isn't it? When the some impurities is there in the liquid, it can be separated with the help of filter paper. Especially in lab also it is used. Then third one is thin cloth. Yes, sometime to filter the water or some other liquid also, thin cloth. Thin cloth is must. You cannot take any kind of cloth, but if the cloth is thin, the components are poured and whatever impurities are there will remain on the cloth and other liquid will pass through it. So these are the three ways of filtration that we are going to learn over here. First is with the help of strainer, that is specially used for the tea. Then filter paper and thin cloth. So here we have learned again three more processes, that is separation technique, sedimentation. So for sedimentation, what is the must? We have to always add water to the mixture, isn't it? When you will add water to a mixture, the heavier components will settle and the impurities will float, isn't it? That will be further removed by the process of decantation. So upper layer of water is removed along with the dust or husk or whatever impurities are there, whatever particles are there, it is removed slowly. That is decantation. And our next process of separation technique is filtration. Yes, it is used for the liquid only when the insoluble substances are required to be separate. So here we have learned the three ways for the filtration. First is strainer, then second is filter paper and thin cloth. So children, cloth should be thin only, then only the filtration process can be done with the help of it. Clear? Again, two more process we are going to learn, evaporation and condensation. So many separation technique we have already learned. Now evaporation, it is the process of conversion of water into its vapor. Yes. When the water is converted into vapor, that process is known as evaporation. Kids, you know that how the salt is prepared? Especially that this process is very, very useful. You know that in sea, salt is present, but we cannot directly take out, isn't it? So due to sunlight, due to heat, all the water will be converted into vapor and the salt will settle at the bottom, isn't it? So in this way we can obtain the salt. There is also the various other technique also, but this is the one of the way of due to evaporation the water is heated and converted into vapor and salt is left out, and further it is purified by some other technique. So for that evaporation process is used. Now condensation. Now it is the process of conversion of water vapor into its liquid form, isn't it? First the water was converted into vapor, and now again this water vapor will converted into its liquid form. That you know very well, isn't it? Ice to water, water to ice, these are the process. So to obtain or to separate some various liquids, we will use the condensation process. Now students, it is not necessary that to separate the components or separate the some things, only one technique can be used. Last time we have seen in last that sedimentation and decantation are connected, isn't it? We can remove the water only when first of all it is added and when the heavy substances are settled down. So here also more than one method of separation is used to separate some mixtures, isn't it? Let us take one example, mixture of sand, salt and water. Now if sand and salt are mixed, hand picking is not at all useful. We cannot use the filtration also. Now here we will use the three different techniques. Three different techniques are decantation, evaporation and condensation. Now first of all, when the mixture of salt and sand is taken, we want to separate it. First of all we need to add water. What happens after adding water? With the help of decantation process, the upper layer of water will be removed and the sand will remain at the bottom. So sand will settle down. Further the evaporation is done. So whatever water is removed, isn't it? Whichever water is removed will be evaporated. So what happens during evaporation? Water will be converted into vapor and salt will left at the bottom. Again some particles might be also present in that in the decanted liquid also, and decanted solution might be some particles. It is not only salt. Now further we will do the condensation. So what happens when condensation is done? The water vapor will be again converted into liquid form and will be removed and salt will only remain, isn't it? So to separate the mixture of sand, salt and water, one process is not sufficient. So we required here three process: decantation, evaporation and condensation. So sometimes one then more process is also used to separate the liquid from the mixture, or any kind of mixture we have to use more than one technique. So in this way we have learned many separation techniques, started from hand picking and we have ended to condensation. After hand picking we have learned thrashing, then winnowing sieving, then later on we have also learned decantation, sedimentation and filtration. At last we have learned evaporation and condensation. So to separate more than one substance, more than one method is also used. So now students, you have learned already in last chapter that some soluble substances are there and some substances are insoluble. The substance which dissolve in water are soluble and which does not dissolve in water is known as insoluble, isn't it? So solution is what? When the water is added to any substance and the liquid is made, that is known as a solution. Now what happens after adding certain quantity of things? Further, it is not possible to dissolve any more substance in it. Suppose I take 1 glass of water, isn't it, and I add 2 spoons of sugar. It is easily soluble by dissolving it, by stirring it, isn't it? Even instead of sugar we can take salt also. Again in the same glass I add more 2 spoons of sugar. Again I go on stirring, it will take some time but it will be dissolved. Now again 3 more spoons I add. What happens? Now some sugar will settle down, it will be not able to dissolve in the water. So a liquid or things allow to dissolve at the certain level only. Suppose you are told to prepare 5 chapters, then you will be easily able to prepare. But if it say that 2 subjects, then it will be somewhat hard. But if I say that you have to prepare of 3 subjects in one day, it will be somewhat more hard. But if I say that you prepare in the one day 10 chapters of each subject, it is not possible by you. When I said first that you prepare the 5 chapters, easily you are able, isn't it? You are the same person, the thing I am giving you is the same. But when I go on adding the proportion, it is not possible by you. In the same way, if you take a glass of water, you add 1 spoon of sugar or salt, it is easily dissolved. If you add 2 spoons, it is dissolved. If 3, dissolved. Then a certain level will come, then when this water will not allow to dissolve any more sugar or salt in it. And such kind of solution is known as saturated solution, isn't it? That it is a solution in which no further quantity of a soluble substance can be dissolved. Though sugar is soluble, but it will be not dissolved, because a level has come when no more any kind of substance can be dissolved in that solution. So such kind of terminology is known as saturated solution. So are you clear, children, that saturated is a solution in which no further quantity of a soluble substance. We are talking about soluble only. First it was easily able to dissolve, but now it is not possible because we can dissolve some amount of substance only. We cannot dissolve as much as we want. Now suppose I want that please, I want only more 2 spoons to dissolve in the saturated solution. It is not possible, but there is a one way, and that is by heating. When you heat any substance, some amount of substance can be dissolved more, isn't it? So by heating we can extend some more amount of substance which can be soluble, which can be dissolved. So saturated solution means in which no further quantity of a soluble substance can be dissolved, but by heating we can dissolve some more amount, not too much more, but some more amount. So this was our chapter. I hope you all are clear with all these things. You are clear with all this process, saturated solution, and further we can also dissolve some amount by heating the solution. So separation of substance is very much necessary to use the separate, either separate the components separately, to use the components separately, or to remove the impurities. Okay, so for various functions, for various use, we need the separation of the substances. So this is our chapter. Thank you. Have a nice